Oh, hi there. I was just checking out some text messages on my cell phone. And that's what this video is all about, is communicating with students who have little or no internet access by cell phone. We're going to be talking today specifically about assignments and how you can give assignments by cell phone, and just a little bit about assessments, as well as some of the other tools that are available to many cell phone users. So specifically, we're going to be looking today at assignments by text, communicating with students by voice, email, and also some of the apps that you can use when you're working with students via cell phone. Now, you might say, well, my students don't have cell phones. Yes, they do. 99% of homes have a device that can accept text messages. 99%. So your student might not have their own cell phone, but there is almost certainly a cell phone in the home that can accept text messages, literally 99% of the time. And about 95% of the homes have a cell phone that will accept email and other online tools as well. What usually keeps folks from using the cell phone for educational purposes as well as others is the cost of the data. And we're going to talk about that and explain why for almost all students in the state of Ohio, there is going to be no extra charge regardless of how much data you use during this COVID-19 emergency. Again, understand the cost figures I'm going to be giving here are based on what's happening during the COVID-19 emergency. If you're watching this cell phone video after the emergency has ended, you may need to check more carefully into some of the costs that your students may potentially face using cell phones the ways I'm about to describe. So first off is text messages. How can I send a text message when I've got 30 or more students to deal with? Well, there's a number of software applications out there you can use and download on your computer to send text messages to a lot of different students all at one time. But you don't need to mess around with that. You can send text messages to your students just by using the email that you're already using. It's really easy. The students don't need any software or any special instructions or any special applications, and neither do you. The way this works is you need to know their phone number and you need to know what company they have their cell phone with. So in the example you see at the bottom of the screen here, the phone number is 419-898-0541, and it's a cell phone that's provided through Verizon. And for any cell phone number provided through Verizon, all you have to do for any cell phone provided through Verizon is add @vtex.com, and you can use this as an email address. And whatever you type up in the email will be sent to the students. You type it up using your email, the students receive it as a text message. For Verizon, that special code that you put at the end of the email is @vtex.com. For Sprint, it's at messaging.sprintpcs.com, T-Mobile at tmobile.net, AT&T at text.att.net. Every cell phone company has a code like this. We'll talk a little bit later about how you can obtain this code. Typically, you're going to ask the parents for it, but also you can get it online very, very quick. Less than a minute a student to set this up. And once you have it set up, it's good forever. We're going to talk more again about the mechanics of it, but let's talk about how you use it first. When you're using text to send assignments to students, you want to make sure your assignment is very clear, very short. And there's 3 pieces to assignments when sent by any electronic communication that are especially critical when you're sending the assignment by text message. The first is make sure there's a clear subject. And I strongly recommend that you always use as a subject the course or subject area. For this example, it's science, and the date of the assignment. So in this example, I would put in the subject of the email, which will become a text message on the student's phone, Science 5.14.2020. That's the subject. The next thing you want is action. And I actually would put the word in action. You can use it or not, but the action is, what do you want the students to do for this assignment? In this particular example, I'm saying the action is to read page 245 to 255 and answer questions 1, 5, 9, and 11. That's the action I want students to take for this assignment in science due 5/14/2020. And finally, always include the resource. Now, this is always important, but it's especially important in times like this, when students may be receiving their assignments by very many different methods in using technologies and systems that they're not familiar with. So I want to make sure it's clear to the student that you're going to do this reading in the textbook with the frog on the cover. This is also extremely helpful when parents or other caregivers are supporting multiple students, maybe some of whom they don't work with frequently, and certainly who they're not used to doing homework with as frequently as we're asking for now during this COVID-19 emergency. So I want to make sure that resource is very clear and is stated in terms that a parent or other caregiver can understand. This is also especially important when you're sending cell phone messages to elementary and preschool students. Wait a minute. Text messages to preschool students? Of course. Let them know through their parents. So when you compose these messages to the younger students, the pre-readers, you want to make sure that you are composing this message in a way that the parents will understand what it is their child is supposed to be doing. And for the emerging readers, you kind of do a combination of it. You write the message to the student, to the emerging reader, but you also provide enough information that the parent will be able to readily help the child complete the assignment. Again, my example being, don't just say in your textbook. In your textbook with the frog on the cover. In your workbook that shows chemistry test tubes. We're making it very clear. So the message itself is going to look something like this. You probably can't read that on the screen. This presentation is available to you for free download. But what I have up at the top here are going to be the students' phone numbers and then that text code, like at vtext.com or at tmobile.net or whatever, based on their cell phone carrier. It's going to be the subject, it's going to be the action, and it's going to be the resource. That's what I type up in my email, and it will go out to all of my students via text message simultaneously. Again, you can buy special programs that are designed specifically to send text messages to multiple students. Your district may already have one of those programs that it uses for emergency notifications, and if you do, fine. Go ahead and use those programs. They have some additional features, but sending a message to your students from your regular school email to their cell phone works just fine. And what do they see then? Well, they're going to see this on the bottom. You can also send quizzes by text. What's the subject? Science 5/14/2020, quiz. Action, reply by text. Make sure you always tell them how they're supposed to respond to the assessment. And name 5 inert gases. All they do is hit reply to the text message you send. They send back to you, and you're going to receive their text message into your email box. It works great. It's amazing. Try it. I give to you your assignment is to try to send some text messages from your email to yourself or other family message members and let them reply back to you. It really does work. You also can send email to most students. Almost every cell phone has the capability of receiving email as well. And the process is almost the same. The only difference is, instead of typing in the cell phone number, I'm going to type in the email that we're using, and it will go directly to the student's Gmail. We'll talk more about that in a different video. We can also just use voice communications to students. Now, clearly using the cell phone for touching base with students, doing a quick one-to-one counseling, I encourage you, based on your district or building policy, consider actually talking briefly with every student about once a week. These should be short conversations, 2 or 3 minute checkups. Have a question in mind, maybe related to an assignment that you've given that week. How you doing? Do you have any questions? Are you guys getting enough food? Look at the health and welfare. And again, I encourage you to have discussions within your building or district about what those health and wellness checks might look like. But staying in touch by cell phone individually with the student is good to do about once a week. I encourage you to have a set time for that. Hey, I'm going to be calling you between 9 and 11 on Thursday mornings. Again, whatever works out well for you. And just try and touch base with every student. And keep track of the fact you did touch base with them. If you think there's any reason to suspect that they're going to need additional services, talk with your principal, guidance counselor to do follow-up if you have any reason to think that particular family might be in need of additional assistance. One of the advantages of you, the trusted adult, the teacher that student knows, is you sometimes can be the first line of defense if things aren't going as well as we might hope in a particular family. You're not Big Brother, you're there just like you are in the classroom to see how's that child doing and to help guide others to instances that there might be a lack of food or whatever. So that voicemail contact, that's from one-to-one individually. But you can also do voicemail to many students. Again, free resources out there available to do this. You set up a call-in number using Google Hangouts, Zoom, or one of the other free programs that are out there for free or very little cost. When you do these from your cell phone to many students, one of the things you want to do is make sure your message is very short and very clear. It's going to be the same concept as we had in the text message. What is this about? Hey, I'm touching base with you on science. The action I want from you as students are to listen to my description, whatever it is that you're out. Again, these typically work best for younger students of 3 to 5 minutes in length, and for older students, an absolute maximum of 15 minutes, preferably less. And then finally, an action step. Always follow up these communications with some action step where the students will give you feedback based on what you were talking about today. I strongly discourage you from having that feedback be a verbal communication when you've got 30 people on the line. It doesn't work well. It'd be a great opportunity to have the students text you a reply. So, today I talked with you briefly about the periodic table and how some of the gases are what we call noble gases and they don't react. One of those gases I mentioned today is helium. Your assignment is to pick one of the noble gases other than helium, do a little bit of research if you can, and tell me what it's going to be used for. If you don't have any resources for research, I'd like you to explain to me a little bit more. Just feed back to me. Tell me what I said about helium. So again, if you have the opportunity, other research sources, an encyclopedia, or if you're able to go online, tell me a little bit about one of the other noble gases. If you're not, and I understand some of you won't be able to get online or maybe don't have textbooks and things available in your house, then I want you to tell me a little bit about helium. That kind of thing, we're layering our assignment so that students, every student, will have an opportunity to reply. That probably wasn't as clear as an example as it could be, but I think you get my message. There's one more vital step when you're going to be communicating to students by cell phone, and that is the permission slip. You want to make sure that parents understand you're going to be communicating with your students by cell phone. And you want them, parent, to put down the student's name, the cell phone number that you're going to be permitted to use for these contacts, and ask them what is their provider, because you have to know that code. Are you going to use at vtex.com or at T-Mobile or at AT&T.net, whatever. You need to know what that is. If you don't, or if the parent doesn't know what their cell phone provider is, it is possible to go online, type in a cell phone number, and look it up. It's really very quick and easy to do that as well. So you can type in a cell phone number and it will say, well, this number came from Verizon, this number came from AT&T, and so forth. If you've got questions about that, I'll show you a website at the end of this presentation where you can get information on looking up numbers as well as everything else we're talking about. So again, to summarize what we've seen so far is 99% of homes have a device in them, a cell phone, that can receive text messages. 95% of the homes have a device that can also download and use apps. Apps like Google Classroom, PBS Kids, links to YouTube videos, and more. However, usually using those apps, those YouTube videos, and some of those other kind of resources, usually they're going to cost some money with many cell phone plans. Unless the family has unlimited data, they may be facing charges normally. Again, during COVID-19 emergency, virtually every cell phone company is providing unlimited text and unlimited or almost unlimited data for students. All you have to do is pay whatever they were regular paying in the cell phone plan, and they will not face any charges for overage. We have more information on that on the website I'm going to share at the end of this presentation as well. But let me talk a little bit more about costs, because I think cell phones are a wonderful tool for staying in touch with students. Now, if they already are one-on-one and everybody has a Chromebook, yeah, use that. But if you don't have a one-to-one device that every student has home, using cell phone can be a tremendous tool, not only during the COVID-19 emergency, but during the entire year as well. So the cost generally for email, really cheap. A misconception is emails cost money. Not much. Most emails cost less than 1 cent to send, even if a student has to pay. And again, during the COVID-19 emergency, almost no one is going to be charged for cell phone services. When it's not emergency, text messages can be about 10 cents, and that was a reason not to use text to communicate with students. 2 or 3 years ago, that was true. Nowadays, the majority of homes have unlimited text plans, even very low wealth. So this is something that you might want to investigate. Even if you looked at this a year or two ago, you may want to check this out again after the emergency is over to consider continuing to use text messaging and these other tools I'm discussing here today. Videos are expensive for most unless they have an unlimited data plan. On average, think of about a 10-minute video will often cost about 25 cents worth of data. Again, not an issue during the COVID-19 emergency for most, but it can be an issue. You keep hearing me hear the word for WOS. I'll give you links on the website where you can go and see specifically, or the parents can, based on their cell phone carrier, what the policies are during the COVID-19 emergency. But for most of the carriers, there's not going to be a penalty. There's not going to be data charges for text messaging of any type. Doesn't matter how many you use, and most of them also are not charging for data. It's going to be free for most students during this emergency. So take advantage of this. Some additional apps, and we're going to talk more about this in the second video in this series about cell phones, are how to use the Google Classroom app on your cell phone. Tremendous way to organize assignments. I really recommend it. I cannot imagine teaching without having assignments organized using a tool like Google Classroom, Schoology, or some of the other tools that are out there. Notice I'm not saying the students are going to complete their assignments online. And let me say that again. The students are not necessarily going to complete their assignments online. They're just seeing what the assignment is. It's there, it's posted, an incredible organizational tool. Struggling learners always benefit from this. Students with special needs, and yes, even your high-performing students oftentimes have trouble keeping their assignments organized. This is a great tool. For all students of all ages, again, the younger students, this is going to be phrased and presented in a way so parents and other caregivers can help understand what the assignments are. For older students, they're going to read the assignment directly themselves. Some of the other apps, and we're going to talk more about these in the next program in this video series, are programs like PBS Kids. A lot of games and activities that are very educational in nature. Some of them are for literacy, reading development. Some of them are for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math education. Others are just good, supportive use of time to help practice skills that students might have in the classroom. Some are for art and creativity. I really encourage you to look at the PBS Kids resources and other resources from apps like this. So for more information on using cell phones in the classroom, visit sites.google.com/nwoet.org/cellphone. You may also call 888-EDTECH-8. Live operators are standing by to answer your questions most school days, and you can leave a message 24/7. So again, that's at sites.google.com/nwoet.org/cellphone. Also on this site will be a link so you can get a PD certificate for today's presentation. You'll be asked the certificate code, and that code is C as in Charles, P as in Paul, AA. So again, the link to get a 30-minute certificate for watching today's presentation is at this sites.google.com/nwoet.org/cellphone. When you click on that link It'll bring you to a form to fill out, and one of the questions will be your name, your school district, and what was the code for this workshop in order for you to receive your certificate. And that code again is C as in Charles, P as in Paul, A as in Apple, A as in Apple. I thank you for watching. I think you will find cell phones a wonderful tool. And for more information on other videos, a class that is going to be offered free online later in April, specifically about using cell phones in the classroom, a 1-hour webinar that's live, interactive about use of cell phones, going to be occurring every Tuesday in April and continuing on into May as well. All of that information and more at sites.google.com/nwet.org/cellphone or call 888-EDTECH8. Thank you for watching and keep using your cell phone.